Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. From a public health crisis to our warming planet, we see how people are solving the major problems in their communities. In Florida, we take a deep dive with scientists on a mission to save endangered coral reefs facing rising sea temperatures. And in Maryland, we meet a former drug kingpin helping kids get off the streets and into the boxing ring for a brighter future. But first, nearly 1 million veterans and civilians may have been exposed to toxic water while stationed at a military base called Camp Lejeune. President Biden signed the Camp Lejeune Justice Act in 2022 to create a path to compensation for affected Marines and their families. Catherine Herridge witnesses the frustrations many continue to face as they wait for a resolution and restitution.
What did male breast cancer do to your family?
It wrecked my family.
Mike Partain says his suffering, part of an unusual cluster of male breast cancer cases, dates back to the day he was born on his father's Marine base, Camp Lejeune.
When you see this picture, what goes through your head?
Well, that's supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My mom's holding me the day I was born.
He drew our attention to one of his first bottles of powdered baby formula there in the corner.
All made with contaminated water that was provided to us by the Marine Corps.
I can see you really feeling emotional when you look at this picture.
Yeah. I mean, it's haunting because you look at that and I'm in my mom's arms. It's supposed to be the safest place in the world. And it wasn't.
Partain's mother, Lizette, still remembers how he suffered unexplained cramps after feeding.
When he was small and you gave him the bottles, he was fussy? He seemed to be in a lot of pain?
He was crying. It was not a normal cry. It was a hurt cry.
Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
The U.S. government acknowledges that from 1953 to 1987, nearly 1 million veterans and civilians potentially were exposed to dangerous chemicals in the drinking water at the coastal North Carolina base. In some cases, levels were 400 times what safety standards allow.
At the age of 39, I was diagnosed with male breast cancer out of the blue, and I do not drink nor smoke.
A government study suggests there are possible associations between male breast cancer and being stationed at Camp Lejeune that could possibly accelerate the onset.
There's over 130 men that I know of that have the single commonality of exposure to the contaminated drinking water at Camp Lejeune and male breast cancer.
So many men came forward that they made this 2011 calendar to help raise awareness. Not everyone is here to tell their story.
Peters passed away in 2014. Chet's passed away. Mosier's passed away.
With no settlement from the Navy for its Marine Corps veterans, Partain and about 1,100 other potential victims sued the U.S. government. Justice Department lawyers responded in some cases, like Partain's, with a series of potential defenses, including one that angered him.
I'm just looking at the Justice Department filing, and it says, to the extent that the evidence shows you, Mike Partain, voluntarily assumed the risks.
I mean, that's ridiculous. It's angering to me. I mean, I couldn't even speak. I couldn't even read. How could I assume the risk for being born to something that they created?
It's a delay tactic, according to environmental advocate Erin Brockovich, who's been working with the Camp Lejeune families since 2007.
Very classic behavior that I've seen in the law in every single environmental case. Deny, 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 deny.
The Justice Department responded. Alongside our partners at the Department of Navy, we are working to develop a framework that will allow for early resolution of Camp Lejeune Justice Act claims. The Navy also said it's working to develop an early resolution framework that will provide a voluntary expedited option for those interested.
Critics say it's a money grab. Is it a money grab?
No. I mean, how could it be a money grab? I would never want any amount of money to go through what I've went through.
55 years since his Marine Corps father took the photo, Mike Partain and his mother Lizette remain haunted.
Now that you know the water was toxic, when you look at that picture, what do you feel?
Mad, upset.
Do you feel any guilt?
Yep.
The whole time she was pregnant with me, she was poisoning me. And even though it wasn't her fault, I could see that guilt in her face. and that hurt.
Federal judges in North Carolina have recently appointed a panel of lawyers to represent the plaintiffs in what is shaping up to be one of the largest mass litigations in U.S. history that could take years.
Keeping on the public health crisis, we turn now to a silent epidemic. 15,000 Americans die from hepatitis C every year. Dr. John LaPook takes a look at a new White House initiative aimed at curbing the curable disease.
So one day I started itching. Like really bad.
When William Glover Bay was diagnosed with hepatitis C in 1992, he never imagined what his doctor would tell him 24 years later.
He said, William, your liver has cirrhosis.
Although Glover Bay was aware he had the virus, many are not. About 40% of the more than 2 million Americans infected with the virus are unaware they have it, and that's contributed to new infections spreading.
This is a silent killer.
Dr. Francis Collins was director of the National Institutes of Health for 12 years.
When you first get the virus, you may have 5, 10, 15, 20 years of feeling pretty normal. Meanwhile, that virus is doing its damage.
That damage can include liver failure and liver cancer. The virus is usually spread through contact with blood from an infected person. But there's hope. In 2013, a new generation of oral antiviral drugs was approved that could cure hepatitis C.
1 pill a day, 12 weeks, almost no side effects, 98% cure rate.
One obstacle? Treatment costs tens of thousands of dollars.
At its core, is this largely a health equity issue?
This is a health equity issue. These are often people on Medicaid. They may be people who are uninsured.
After leaving the NIH, Dr. Collins became the acting science advisor to President Biden and approached him with a bold proposal to eliminate hepatitis C in the United States.
If we could get access to the drugs for people who are infected, we calculate in 10 years, you would save the federal government $13.3 billion in healthcare costs that we wouldn't have to spend. Liver transplants, liver cancer, liver cirrhosis. You have saved billions of dollars and tens of thousands of lives. What's not to love here?
President Biden gave Dr. Collins his answer.
Okay, we're on it, do it. And by the way, Collins, you're in charge.
How did that feel?
Good. I'm obsessed about this.
To help drive down the cost, Dr. Collins pointed to a program implemented in Louisiana as a possible model. It began with the support of Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, who happens to be a physician who has treated people with hepatitis C.
The goal was to use a subscription model. We call it the Netflix model. You pay a flat fee to the drug company, get as much drug as you can, and you treat as many as you can. That was going to be principally for the Medicaid, the uninsured, and the incarcerated population.
And how did that actually roll out when it was tried?
Yeah, it rolled out pretty well, and then the pandemic hit.
After the program began in July 2019, the number of people beginning treatment increased dramatically, from 288 in the first 3 months to 1,584 in the next 3 months. Even with the pandemic slowing treatment, the total number of patients treated has grown to more than 14,000.
That is possible, that you can treat a lot more patients than you've previously treated if you take the cost of the medication, if you eliminate that as a barrier.
President Biden has proposed spending $12.3 billion over the next 10 years to help eliminate hepatitis C. But congressional support for that initiative will depend heavily on a pending analysis from the Budget Office.
Good policy is good politics, but everybody in Congress knows somebody with hepatitis C. If the administration comes up with a good plan and it can justify what it's asking for, and we can show success elsewhere, I'd like to think that we can go to members of Congress and get buy-in.
For William Glover Bay, treatment of his hepatitis C in 2016 helped turn his life around. Having likely contracted the virus by sharing needles, he's now healthy and drug-free, married, has 3 children, and is a community health worker for Johns Hopkins Medicine in Baltimore.
Well, you may be one of the soldiers in the future who go into the community and say, hey, let me tell you what the story is. Because, hearing it from the head of the National Institutes of Health is one thing. Hearing it from a community leader who's been there is another.
And I'm a willing participant. I give back every day. That's what my job is, to give back.
Coming up, the race to save coral reefs from rising seawater temperatures. This is Eye on America. An urgent effort is underway in the Florida Keys. The ocean water has gotten so warm, it threatens to kill off the once vibrant coral reefs that are critical to protecting marine life. Manuel Bojorquez shows us how scientists are taking drastic measures to try and save the coral and other sea creatures.
Scientists with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, took us to a spot known as Chica Rocks off Isla Morada.
Chica Rocks has been one of the reefs that's really held on.
So this is a resilient reef.
This has been a resilient reef.
Has been up until now.
Yeah.
Ian Enochs has been doing research here for about 10 years. He was not prepared for what he saw. A virtual moonscape, a condition known as bleaching. Extremely warm water causes the coral to lose the algae it needs to survive, leaving them looking like ghosts. This is what it looked like in 2017.
As a scientist, we are trying not to be emotional. For me, just seeing the scale of death, it's hard to kind of come to terms with that. It's not subtle. It's 100%.
A nearby marine buoy in the Upper Keys measured the surface water temperature above 100 degrees, which scientists believe is due in part to human-caused climate change. Now there's a race to save the coral.
Just put one here.
Ironically, by removing them from their habitat.
We are trying to rescue as much of the genetic diversity and as much of the stock that we have is paramount to the survival of these species in the Florida Keys. How many you have here?
Fanor Montoya Maya is program manager of the Coral Restoration Foundation. Volunteers have been taking 20 different species of coral from the sea and to their partners at the Keys Marine Lab, where they are placed into tanks that simulate more normal conditions. The goal is to keep them alive and return them once the waters have cooled.
We have seen a species disappear, but an entire ecosystem, we haven't seen that. And I don't want to be part of the generation that sees that.
This is about more than coral. Reefs cover less than 1% of the Earth's surface, but are home to 25% of marine species, making them critical to the food supply, tourism, and shoreline protection.
They breathe through a hole in their tongue.
For sea turtles, it's a matter of survival.
This animal was in our oceans when dinosaurs were on our land, so what we see happening to them is eventually going to affect all of life.
Betty Zirkelbach is the general manager at the Turtle Hospital in Marathon. She says warming waters contribute to abnormalities and deformities in turtles, but could also affect the species long term. Nests in warmer sands yield more female turtles.
As far as hatchlings in the state of Florida, we're only seeing female hatchlings.
It's a fragile ecosystem at risk, one Ian Enochs, despite the odds, isn't willing to give up on.
We have too much at stake, and so we have no other option than to try to turn this around, and I think we can.
Now to a project scientists have been cooking up that's ready for the general public to taste. Anna Werner learns how lab-grown chicken is making its way onto diners' plates.
Caramelized just like a regular conventional chicken.
The chicken they're cooking at Chef Jose Andres' Washington, D.C. restaurant comes not from a bird, but a lamb, from chicken cells grown into meat here at the company Good Meat in Alameda, California.
We call it cultivated chicken.
Cultivated chicken. Company co-founder Josh Tetrick.
Cultivating meat is a way of starting with a cell and ending with chicken, beef, or pork without all the other issues in between.
This is the research and development lab.
It starts with those chicken cells.
This is our biggest bioreactor,
which are bathed in a nutrient broth in tanks known as bioreactors.
The genetic profile is the same as a slaughtered chicken.
Environmental advocates say cultivating meat is more sustainable compared to traditional livestock farming because it uses less water and land. Federal regulators approve the sale of lab-grown meat from Good Meat and nearby Berkeley-based Upside Foods. But some researchers say the environmental impacts of cultivating meat will need to be closely monitored as the industry grows.
Just by the virtue of creating this meat in a lab doesn't necessarily mean it's better for the environment.
And will people eat it? Most we asked did.
I mean, it tastes good.
Yeah, it's really
well
good.
prepared.
If you didn't know, you wouldn't really question it.
Yeah, I'd buy it.
You'd buy it?
I'd buy it, sure.
Although not everyone will.
Sorry, I don't like it.
The chicken won't land in stores until the company figures out how to scale up production. Its next target, beef.
Ahead, we visit a special boxing gym giving kids a fighting chance to overcome the dangers of the streets. That story is next. We close our show with an inspiring comeback story. For over 2 decades, a reformed drug dealer has operated a boxing gym in Baltimore that's become a lifeline for hundreds of young men. Jerika Duncan steps into the ring to see how the program is giving at-risk youth lessons in the sport and life.
Amidst the blight of West Baltimore, empty plots and broken dreams, is this beacon of hope for those penned against life's ropes, where a shot in the dark comes to light when trainer Calvin Ford appears.
Has this gym saved lives?
Saved lives. You know, a lot of kids, they're going through a lot of trauma at home. And when they get here, they got people that's trying to help them achieve the best out of them. This male killer bee right here,
For more than 20 years, Ford has been a father figure, a mentor, and a coach to countless children at Baltimore's Upton Boxing Center.
We get like 80 to 100 kids come in.
A day.
A day.
8-year-old Graylin Cobb started training here at age 5.
What makes this place so special?
Coach Calvin and other coaches.
What do you learn?
How to carry yourself as a man and how to train.
Ford believes in getting to the boxers young, before the other corners start their inevitable pull. Upton Boxing Center is a city-run gym that's free for kids.
There's 300 kids on a waiting list right now to get in here?
To get in here. Why you like boxing?
But it's not just the kids who feel secure here.
My safe zone is here, but because people know who I am, I have like a pass.
His pass is his street cred. The former drug kingpin, who says he started selling drugs at 13, did a 10-year stint in federal prison on racketeering and conspiracy charges. Behind bars is where he developed a love for boxing and promised himself to give back once he got out. His life was the inspiration behind the boxing trainer Dennis Cuddy Wise on the HBO crime drama The Wire.
I don't want to hear no more street talk. We boxing up in here. We ain't fighting.
What is it about working with the kids that keeps you motivated?
It's just like teaching a kid how to walk. Then you see the moments when their hands go up and you see that smile on their face.
Right.
That's what it's about.
One of those smiles belongs to a boxer Ford began training at age 7. 5-time world champion Gervonta Davis, also known as Tank. The 29-0 boxer still works out at Upton.
I want to read you something and get your reaction. You'll be inspired to know what he beat, how many lives he saved, how many kids he lost but never lost faith. We will win this battle. You know who that's from?
Tank. You know how you think a kid ain't listening? You do everything to make sure he do. He hears.
But the message is sometimes drowned out by the noise. Sadly, through the years, Ford and his fellow coach Kenny Ellis have lost several rising stars.
We have Ronald Gibbs. He was stabbed in his heart. And we have Diddy up here in the middle. He was shot in his head. And Andre was shot. He survived.
Ford knows the pain all too well. His son Kadir was shot to death when he was 24. And as hard as they fight to keep the area surrounding the gym safe, on one of the days we were there, we witnessed heartbreak on the doorstep of hope. A man overdosed just feet away from this cautionary sign.
I'm on the phone with 911.
Our photojournalist filmed while providing information to a 911 dispatcher.
She just gave him some Narcan.
Sir, sit up. Emergency responders revived him. The boxing staff cleaned up the mess, but memories cannot be swept away.
This is supposed to be a safe haven for the kids, and seeing that type of trauma, it could affect the youth.
So Ford keeps his kids focused on the battle in front of them. Remember 8-year-old Graylin Cobbs? He's finally old enough for his first real bout in the ring. He's on the undercard with another first-timer, Calvin Ford, who after decades of coaching is scheduled to fight this weekend in his first professional match.
Can you believe that you're taking this on now at 58 years old?
Anything you want to do, you want to do it, just do it.
It's that simple.
But it is. If God wakes you up in the morning, you have the ability to do anything you want.
He's fighting the good fight, and by the looks of it, he's winning.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news 24/7, stream us right here on CBS News. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.